It is such a phenomenal honor to be the inaugural recipient of the Burke Prize Residency. And, I think it helped ushered me into a world and a discipline that I don't know that I would have fully entered if not given the opportunity. Disciplines can seem really insular or guarded or gated, and it just opened the doors for me to come into glass in a way where I felt like I knew that the studio knew I wasn't a glass artist, and so they knew that they were getting somebody that wasn't an expert, and I just fully embraced that and worked with me to make, the work that I hoped to make, and allowed me to sort of fail and change course, or responded to my neediness. And I think it really has changed how I think about accessing glass. And I feel now much more likely and comfortable navigating the glass world and feeling comfortable doing future work in glass. I think what really brought me into glass was a new thinking about the way I use material. Metal is my home base, my sort of home discipline. But as I started working with ceramics, I started thinking about, domestic objects. And that, then led me to think about glass as a really common, domestic object that we interact with almost every day. So it seemed like a really logical leap to move into glass. Glass also offered the potential of transparency. In order to see what it is and how it fits in the negative space, you don't look at the exterior surface, you actually have to look through the glass to see the interior and how that becomes the void. So that's I think a really exciting revelation or transition in the work, is to be able to use transparency to look through something and see something else. So my work has really, I think, centered around explorations of the female body and femininity, and those expectations of what it is to be feminine. It became really important for me to really understand the body I was using, and so in that way I used my own body in my work. So I really see my work also connecting to a lineage of performance art that deals with duration, self-exploration, and that kind of connects to the work that I'm doing here at Corning. So now I make, more broadly, objects that are used with the body, both made with the body and used with the body. So I use my body to sort of produce objects that specifically fit me by taking molds from my body and making things that are perhaps like jewelry and adornment, but also ceramic forms and vessels that fill the body, and making glass objects that conform to the body. So it started by producing body molds at a foundry in Philly, Independent Casting, and they took through a series of molds, basically a full body casting with sort of multiple gestures, bent knees, straight knees, heads, torsos. And I left with those molds, took them back to my studio in Detroit, and worked with my assistant Lynn to cast plaster forms. So I brought those to Corning. We soak them in water, coat them in graphite so that they release from the glass, take them to the hot shop and use them almost like a puppet. I have hands that are cut off at the wrist with steel rebar, elbows with handles, and so a team of us can basically articulate a gesture against, say, a torso or a butt, and kind of grab that glass inward. And then the forms are finished with a vessel top, so they have this sort of gesture or pointing to a functional vessel or a vase, something that you might be familiar with, that you might have in your home. So in tandem to the hotshot work, I've also been working in the flame working studio, and there I've been working primarily on smaller objects that use a very similar process of working with the plaster castings to form the glass, but these primarily are glass objects that fit the face. So, the lips and tongue, I have a cast of my teeth and palate so that I can bite down on the glass, working with the nostrils and the ears. And so on a much smaller scale, I'm blowing forms and then using these articulated plasters to bite or pinch. I've got a set of hands on tongs that I can pinch onto the glass. So these are much smaller, much, I think, more intimate objects. Just about everything was new for me. I had some history in glass, but I really, it was like walking into uncertainty. And I think as an artist, that's a really healthy place to be. Being, several decades into my career now, my practice, being shaken up by not knowing is, I think, a really, it's a place to learn and grow, and I have now all sorts of sort of questions and things I'm excited about to explore moving forward, and that wouldn't have happened if I stayed with a material that I was completely comfortable with.